Okay, so sometimes you're gonna have something so difficult that it doesn't matter what you do, it's just gonna be real icky. All right, so let me show you what I mean by that. So let's look at this right here. All right, so we have a quadratic equation in standard form. So I want to find the zeros or the intercepts. So I'm gonna use my trick. Let me get on this side. Let me see if that'll be better if I get on that side. All right, cool. I think that's better. All right, so I'm gonna take A times C. That's 3. And then I'm gonna drop this -5 right here. So now what I need is 2 factors of +3 that will add together to give me -5. So let's see, I got 1, -1, and 3, -3. There's no combination to where I can multiply any of these 2 factors to get 3 and then add them to get -5. It's just not possible with what we have, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a foolproof method for every single quadratic equation there is. And I'm going to use the quadratic equation. So the quadratic equation is, I'm going to write it up here, -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. I said 2a, that's a hot topic these days. Bang, bang, pew, pew. Okay, that's the quadratic equation. All right, so let me get back on this side. So when we have something like this to where you can't work it out, you know, in a short, easy, painless manner, it's usually gonna have like some complicated zeros. You know, you're gonna have like some square roots and some fractions and all that stuff like that. But that's okay. Don't let any of that scare you. Remember, this is not hard. This is not hard, and it will pay. If you master this, you dedicate yourself to this, it will pay dividends. All right. So we know A is 3, B is -5, and C is 1. So now we just plug it into the equation. So we got negative of -5 plus or minus the square root of -5 squared minus 4. A is 3. C is 1. Over 2a. Okay. So now all we have to do is just simple arithmetic. So negative times a -5 is +5 plus or minus the square root. Let me write this somewhere else. Let me see if I have this right here. I'm just gonna write it right here. I'm gonna write it down here. All right, so we got 5 plus or minus the square root of -5 squared is -5 times -5, and that's 25, minus 4 times 3 is 12, and then 12 times 1 is 12, so minus 12 over 6. Now we have 25 minus 12 is 13. So we have 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 6. What's the square root of 13? Well, it's not a perfect square, so we're just gonna leave it as it is. So our two zeros, our two intercepts are going to be 5 square roots of 13 over 6. And, oh, sorry, no, that's not right. I'm tripping. This is actually two answers right here. You got 5 plus or minus. So I got 5 plus the square root of 13 over 6 and 5 minus the square root of 13 over 6. Those are your two zeros, okay? So there's no way we could have got that by, doing it how we usually do it, by just, working with the equation and, just finding two factors of C that add together to get to B. It was just no way you can do it. So you can actually apply the quadratic equation to any quadratic equation there is. Let's do another one. We're gonna do an easy one. Let me see if I can make up one off the top of my head. Let's say 6 plus. Want to say, yeah, that's good. That 5x, okay, equals 0. All right, so A is 1, B is 5, C is 6. All right, so let's plug it into the quadratic formula. So we got negative B is, let me write this, A, B, C. Okay, so we got negative 5 plus or minus the square root of B squared. So we got 5 squared minus 4. A is 1, C is 6 over 2A. A is 1. All right, so now I'm just gonna write it out. So I got negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared. I'm sorry. When you're doing math, make sure you write everything neatly so you can see what you're doing. It's very important because you will trip yourself up if you don't write it neatly. All right, so the square root of, and then we have all this inside. So 5 squared is 25 minus 4. 4 times 1 is 4, or negative 4. And then negative 4 times 6 is 24 over 2. Okay. So now we have 25 minus 24 is 1. Right? So I'm going to write this right here. I'm going to say, plus or minus 1, square root of 1 over 2. Okay, now what's the square root of 1? The square root of 1 is 1. So we're just going to get rid of this since the square root of 1 is 1. So we're just going to write it like that. All right, so now we have remember we have two answers. We have negative 5 plus 1 over 2, and then negative 5 minus 1 over 2. All right, negative 5 plus 1 is going to be negative 4 over 2, and that equals negative 2. And then remember the signs are the same, so you just add and keep the sign. So we have negative 6 over 2, and that equals negative 3. Simple. Now, we know that from the start, I mean, this was easy. We could have just looked at, you know, we got C, and two factors of C that add together to get to 5 are going to be 3 and 2. So we could have just wrote and then we just solve, then we solve these for 0, and then we get -2, -3. So I just showed you that to say that the quadratic equation works for every single quadratic equation there is. Every single one. Yeah, I don't know if it's, I think later this year, you're probably going to go over imaginary numbers where you're going to get a negative square root of something. And naturally, you can't do negative square roots, but you know, there's a mathematical way to express it. So get acquainted with this quadratic equation. It's your friend. It's not the fastest way every time, but it's 100% effective and foolproof every single time. All right. So as far as just equations go, that's really all we're gonna do. We're not gonna go into completing the square. If you do need help with that, just let me know and we'll get into that. But I'm gonna show you the significance of these quadratic equations and finding the zeros and what they mean when we go into the graphing. So we're gonna be using the vertex form of quadratic equations when we're graphing. Remember, it's useful for graphing. So other than that, if you have any questions over this, what we've gone over so far, just let me know. You call me, text me, email me, and like I said, we'll go over it.